Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is ScopeSF and today we're gonna do something a little silly. Just a little bit silly. So as you know, I'm a pretty avid AFK journey player. I've gotten to the point where most of the characters that I want to get to Supreme Plus are already actually there. There's a few of them I'd want to get higher, and a few of them that I'm still building. For example, I'm starting to see the very I'm starting to see a lot of the value between Volca and Hugin, so I'm going to start building them more aggressively. But otherwise, I have a pretty decent selection of characters to the point where I can start looking to get most of them to Paragon level, and I'm just going to keep going up from there. Now, as you can see, my main Mauler team is all the way at the top, and just about all of them are Paragon. The only exception is Entendre. That's not an issue at all, because once I'm ready to start rebuilding her again, I could just get her capsules from the Dream Store. It might take me a season or two just for the store to refresh and just to save up on the Dream Realm teardrop things that you get in order to actually buy from the Dream Store, but none of that is particularly important right now. What we're going to be talking about today is Mr. Faramor, the most recent character that was recently released. Now, Faramor
has come to depart.
Does a lot of interesting things. He does a lot of damage. He has anti-heal built into his kit, which I can't think of any other character that actually has anti-heal. There may be one of the 3 random Graveborns that nobody knows his names of, like Salazar and Nibiru and whatever the other really creepy guy is. Maybe one of them has anti-heal built into their kit. I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't care. Right now we're talking about Faramor. Faramor also, I believe, he does a lot of things. He does true damage. He increases damage done to enemies within an area. Gives himself a shield. So, relatively tanky, all things considered. Increases allies' attacks. Also increases his own attack. So yeah, Faramor just... I'm not going to say he's broken. I'm not going to say he's like overly tuned or overly stacked. But very good character, especially while he's on the banner. If you do have the resources to build him at least to Mythic Plus, if not Supreme Plus, even Paragon for yourself if you can afford it. Definitely, I think, worth the investment. Even if he doesn't have a very obvious team comp right now, I'm sure that characters in the next season will really start to highlight his playstyle. Bring out the best of him as he's on a team. And I also think it's going to help that I personally think that the next season is going to be a little more Wilder focused, all things considered. Main reason I believe that is because the first season, Song of Strife, very heavily Mauler focused, and we also, not only do we get stories for the original Mauler characters, but between Soren, Alsa, and Mikola, we got some of the best Maulers in the game from that season. Next season was a little bit of a split between Graveborn and Lightbearer, but much more of a heavy emphasis on Lightbearer, just between Sinbad, Hugin, Sonya, Lucas, or Luca, big beefy boy over here. There was just like a lot of emphasis on getting Lightbearers their real heroes, and now we're in Chains of Eternity, and even though, of course, we got Gerda as a Mauler and Faramor as a Wilder, just to, throw a little bone to the players who have a devotion to a specific faction, this was very much a Graveborn story. Even though Ludovic was released in a previous season, he might have actually been Song of Strife, not even Ways of Intrigue. I think it was Song of Strife, actually. But even though Ludovic was already released way back when, he actually got a very prominent story in Chains of Eternity. We also got Valka. We got a huge story for Carolina. And then Callan was there, I guess. So, very heavy Graveborn story. So we already have huge stories and character releases for the three main factions, except for Wilder. So, yeah, I think that Wilder is going to be the next release. Also, aside from the fact that, as just a teaser at the end of... I forget if it was the end of Song of Strife or Wake of Intrigue. It's been a while. But we got releases and a sort of prologue side story for both Lenya and Lily May. And that did not go anywhere at all. But we know that with a build-up like that, it's going to be going somewhere. So yeah, down the road, even if Faramor doesn't seem like obvious where he's going to be going right now, I think that as we get later character releases, we're going to get a team comp that he really shines in. But until then, I was still experimenting with the different team comps that we could make now with Faramor, and where he might be able to fit in, and where he can really shine as his own character instead of just being a standard utility character. And a lot of thoughts went through my head, and one of the ones that really stood out, which is kind of a joke, but actually it is probably going somewhere. As you know, we just talked about it. Faramor is a Wilder, not a Mauler. Even he makes a very strong point of that himself when he's introduced in his own story at the beginning of Chains of Eternity. But Faramor also happens to be...
The time has come to depart.
A rogue. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, like, what does that have to do with anything? He just seems like a very strong melee utility character. Why does him being a rogue actually matter? Fundamentally, it doesn't. Could have been a warrior, could have been a tank or a guardian, whatever they call it. But the first thing I thought when I saw that he was a Wilder rogue was, wait, don't we already actually have one really good one? What would Faramor do to replace them? As it turns out, if you go into the filter tab and filter by Wilder and Rogue, we actually have 4. And interestingly enough, aside from Faramor, which we don't know too much about, and Lenya, who I think is a little bit underwhelming and could do with a buff skill next season, but that's neither here nor there. Aside from those two, the other two, Aaron, who is infamous for how good his crowd control is, especially at the start of the battle. Like, there are entire teams built around Aaron that will just throw him in there just for his ultimate skill at the start of the battle, and he could be the only Wilder on the team. Aside from him, and aside from Lily May, who, despite being a rogue class, somehow ends up being one of the best marksmen in the game, maybe only behind Odie and Bonnie, but still outclasses even Merrily, and Merrily was easily one of the top 3 marksmen in the game. But now with Bonnie's release and Lily May's release, even though Lily May is a rogue, she still performs marksman actions and kind of has a dance around the battlefield, deal damage from range style of gameplay that both Merrily and Bonnie actually have. So I'd almost, I'm not asking for a reclass, but I'm almost thinking that Lily May could be one of the best marksmen in the game, fundamentally speaking. And even then, Faramor, very strong utility character. It's also interesting that, looking at these characters, they all bring something very specific that makes them play like a different class. Like, you can just use Aaron as a support, even though he still does a lot of damage just from the crowd control of his ultimate. Like I said, you can still use Lily May as a marksman. And even Lenya is a very interesting case, because you could still use her as a pseudo warrior. So, for those of you who don't know,
stretch these legs.
For those of you who don't know, Lenya is a very unique character that her whole shtick is that she gets a lot of crit damage between Raining Resolve, crit damage boost by 55, and attack by 15%. Flurry of Kicks increases her crit by 15. So she's a very critical strike heavy character, which, you know, you kind of expect that for a rogue. But with her ultimate, she targets an enemy who has dealt the highest cumulative damage and dashes at them, delivering a flying kick, yada yada yada. So she marks them as a target, and I don't know if there's a way that the game actually shows you that. I haven't played around with a lot of Lenya a whole lot, but I do know that if she's at Supreme Plus, she takes less damage, 35%, from enemies other than her target. So, and her target is chosen by, the enemy who has dealt the highest cumulative damage and dashes at them. So if a battle has been going on for a couple of seconds, and let's say the enemy team has an Odie or something on it, obviously Odie is going to be doing the most damage out of the enemy team, so Lenya is going to be choosing him as the target. If Lenya is then not targeted by Odie because Odie is busy focusing on somebody else, all of a sudden Lenya's going on him, he's not going on her, so she's not taking any straight damage from her target, but anybody else who is going on her is going to be dealing 35% less damage. So in a weird offset way, I would never say that Lenya is ever going to be your solo tank. And she's going to need a lot of backup overall just as a character. But you can kind of fit her in as a pseudo warrior just from, you know, only taking 2/3 of the damage that she normally would from the vast majority of the enemy team. When you contextualize it like that, that sounds crazy. Not to mention the buff she's going to be getting from Faramor and, you know, everybody else. So, what I ended up doing was, since I saw that there were 4 Wilder rogues that all play very differently from each other, but all play very different roles to the point that each one of them is like a pseudo flex for a different role entirely, I figured why not try and make a team composition based around all 4 of the Wilder rogues. Which is very silly, very stupid, but I think it's actually kind of working. And now to round off the team, you might be, you know, the first thing you should be asking is, okay, who's the 5th? Who's going to be your final slot, since it can't be a Wilder rogue? What I ultimately decided to go with was Damien. Let me actually... Now, Damien, this little bugger right here. First off, I'm going to call him an honorary rogue just because of his personality. He is very much a, I don't care about the rules, I'm going to have fun my own way and express myself my own way. So his personality already fits that of a rogue, so we'll give him rogue status for this. But Damien does so much. And it's actually insane. I thought that I've been undervaluing Damien for the longest time, to the point where it's actually a little bit embarrassing. I'm gonna say it right now. If you haven't started building a Damien, you should be doing that, absolutely. Very easy to do. Also because he is in the Dream Realm store, which is actually why I'm putting on Tantra on hold for a bit, because I really want to get Damien to Paragon. He fits in a lot of teams, whether or not they're Wilder based. So Yeah, Damien, absolutely a character to consider and a force to be reckoned with. Definitely should be one of your higher rated characters, if nothing else, even for a flex pick. But Damien does so much overall. Obviously, you know that he's the one that goes out of the battlefield and throws out his little gadgets and gizmos, and he's literally a heal bot. He throws out bots that heal. But apparently, which one's this? He blinds enemies, aside from dealing damage. Like, I was reading over his skills. Apparently, his skills actually do a fair amount of damage. But he blinds enemies. And where was it? That's a heal. This one. Throws out a toy plane, farthest enemy, fireworks, yada yada yada, dealing damage and stunning them for 3 seconds. So, aside from being a very reliable healer, that can't even be targeted. Damien goes all the way outside of the battlefield because this is a game where you can't hurt children, which, perfectly fair. Hey, it plays in our favor. Why not? But aside from being untargetable just because of the way his character works, he's stunning people, he's blinding them, and he's healing his allies for quite a bit. This isn't the only, I don't think this is the only factor of healing that he has. Yeah, also when he's Supreme Plus, the blind duration is extended to 7 seconds, which is insane. Yeah, here's his, exclusive equipment. I don't think you need to get him to a 4-star. I think putting him at a 3-star is perfectly fine. You at least want a 2-star, so you want to throw all of your blue equipment, essence, whatever, into him, so that way allies within the 2 tiles are healed for 80% HP per second. That including his emergency support skill. He does a lot of healing. Definitely, probably even more than Hewin, which is insane. Because Hewin was, at least all the way back in the starter story before Songs of Strife, she was regarded as one of the best healers in the game, and one of the characters that you must absolutely build because her healing is that good. And she could even flex into, like, even if you wanted to do, like, a full Graveboard team, because you pulled a Thorin, obviously you're going to have a, what's her name? Not Bonnie, the other one. Cecia.
Desire an audience.
Yeah, even if you had a Thorin, a Cecia, happened to pull a Carolina way back when, before Ludovic, even in a Graveboard team, you would still run a full Hewin just because of how good her healing was. But all of her healing is tied to her ultimate, and it takes a while to build up her ultimate. Whereas Damien, this little guy just throws out gizmos left and right, which are perfectly capable of healing, and it's just absolutely insane overall the kind of support that this little support can actually throw out. So what I ended up with, a Wilder Rogue team. Yeah, these are the current teams that I'm experimenting with. Obviously we talked about my quest for getting the starter maulers to Paragon. Here's just me messing around with Gerda a little bit. And my favorite team is the Undying team. I'll make a video on that fairly soon. But the Wilder Rogue team, just throwing it out there, Willie Mae, always in the back, just because she could deal a lot of damage from a range, even if she moves forward a little bit. The way she dashes around the battlefield a lot, she's going to be moving constantly anyway, so it's not like melee range is her forte. Aaron also in the back, just because he could be a little bit safer as he's casting his ultimate for the first time. Damien definitely in the back, so that way, because he has to run to the back of the battlefield at the start of the match, you want him realistically as far back as possible. Between Lenya and Faramor being all the way up at the front, I don't know. I'm still working on the placement between them. But I know I want those two to be up front because they are absolutely the ones that are going to be running in, face tanking and getting the attention of whichever enemy is, going for them, unless they have a backline rogue like a Lady Bala or a Sylvina or, whatever. Doesn't particularly matter. Main point being because these two are the ones that can at least shield themselves. They're the ones who are going to benefit the most from Damien's heal bot. And they're the ones who absolutely need to be in melee range in order to actually start dealing out their own damage. Then, yeah, those two need to be the forefront. And then, just to be on the safe side, I think for skills, I want whatever the season's healing skill is going to be. Just because, unfortunately, I know I talked up a big game for Lenya, but I'm finding that, especially at the later stages, she is going to be dying quite a bit. And just having that little extra potential healing, it'll at least keep her alive for her to be able to get online and start doing her thing. Building up her ultimate shows she can also start dashing around the battlefield, very similar to Lily May. It's funny how those two actually dance around quite a lot just over the course of a battle, if at least the both of them stay alive for long enough. Lily May absolutely will because she's so far back, and she's very good at just auto repositioning. Lenya, not so much, but que sera sera. And Faramor just being, an absolute beefcake up front. You also want Faramor to be up front and get into the enemy team just because of his magic circle ability. I didn't go over it a whole lot. I'm sure that people like Puzzle or Zebo, who are a lot smarter than me, will do a full breakdown of Faramor. But you essentially are playing around Faramor's magic circle and how he sets up an AoE in the enemy's face that really buffs up your team a lot. So, yeah, 4 rogues and a Damien. All of them are Wilders. We got a Wilder rogue team. And just kind of playing around with it, I wanted to see how far I could actually push. Yeah, whatever. I'm not saving it. I didn't make any changes. As I get to my AFK stage pushing, I don't have any evidence of this, but I was probably at, the low to mid 1700s as I was experimenting with this team. I also didn't level up my heroes a whole lot. I don't know, do it now a couple times. Or once, that's fine. But yeah, these guys are probably at resonance level mid to high 980 or something like that. So I really didn't upgrade them that much since the last time I really did a big AFK push. But I was able to get, using this Wilder rogue team, I was able to push, probably close to 60, 70 stages. And I could keep going. I did decide to stop at the 1800, so that way I can actually start recording and show off a little bit of what's going on, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I think there is definitely merit. I don't know about Dream Realm, because, Dream Realm strategies completely change depending on, which boss you're up against. And I don't know about Arena, because Arena comps are very, very solved, I guess, basically. But as far as pushing for AFK stages, I think this team has a surprising amount of merit and could put out a surprising amount of results. Not only just for being a meme team, but honestly, if we really do go back and look at the characters, whether or not you built up Faramor, I would say do it. I would say build up Faramor as high as you can. I think even if you don't see immediate value for him right now, he will get his value down the road, like I talked about earlier. But even aside from Faramor, and even discounting Lenya, you absolutely should be looking to build Aaron and Lily May already. Arguably two of the best characters in the game. And then I already put up a really strong case for Damien. So even if you don't necessarily like Faramor or Lenya, you already should be building the other three. Because even if you don't like the idea of a joke team comp around Wilder Rogues, they're still going to flex pick into just about any, like a lot of other teams where they will actually also have a lot of merit. But aside from that, enough of that. Let's actually take a look at what this team can do. I'm going to stop yapping for a bit. I'll let this run out, play out. You can see exactly how far these guys will go, going from 1801 and at about 1001 season resonance level, all the way up to, however far they get on the auto battle. So without further ado, let's get started. And just make sure I actually have the full exactly what I'm looking for, and let the games begin.
Every sword is a witness. Victory is ours, my friend.
Lounging around is my ultimate life goal.
Victory is ours, my friend. Every sword is a witness. Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend.
Every sword is a witness. Victory is ours, my friend. 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 Victory is ours, my friend.
Lounging around is my ultimate life goal.
Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend.
20 stages, not bad. But let's see what else we can do with the standard arena.
Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend. Victory is ours, my friend.
Well, rip. Okay, so that second part of it was not the most impressive showcase of it all, but looking back how that works and kind of taking my own notes on the strength and characters, or strengths and weaknesses of how these characters interacted with each other, it was interesting. The two big things I noticed is that an Iron Faramor combo is going to be pretty huge, because a lot of the fights that were successful, if you wanted to go back and take a look at them on your end, a lot of the fights that were successful are when Iron could immediately ult, Lenya and Faramor ran up head first, like I kind of predicted that they would, and kept the enemies there. There was very little mobility on the enemy side once they were all grouped up like that, and that allowed Faramor to get a lot of people in his magic circle all at once. So any allies that were in the magic circle were getting huge attack bonuses, and any enemies inside of it were anti-healed. And the thing I noticed about it, I don't know exactly if this is how it works. I'm kind of theorizing that it is, but I think that Lily May and Lenya are doing a lot more damage overall just because of Faramor. Reason being, Iron ults them, gets them all grouped up. Faramor kind of keeps them there by just happenstance, and then uses the magic circle on all of them all at once. And then because Lenya and Lily May are just dancing around the battlefield all the time and going between target and target and target and target, because all of the targets are all just kind of in one spot within the magic circle, I think that regardless of where they started or where they landed, because all of the enemies are in the magic circle, they are also in Faramor's magic circle, and they're dealing the increased damage off of it. I'm not smart enough to know exactly how to test that, but that's what it looked like. But then, yeah, overall, I noticed that the big key factors of most of it all, the two battles that I lost at the end, are pretty much when Iron died immediately. I think that Iron is a lot more of a keystone to this composition than either Lenia or Lily May for sure. Faramore's definitely putting in work. Also admitting, potential stat checks and everything, there is definitely the possibility that I got lucky enough to get Iron to Paragon, and then I pushed for Faramor to get to Paragon. So they might stand out as the stars of the show just because of that fact alone. I don't necessarily think so definitively, just because my Damien is not a Paragon yet, and he's putting in a ton of work for it overall. But yeah, just from rewatching the battles and how they played out, I don't think that Wilder rogues are a joke. I think that if you happen to have these characters built decently, maybe not Lenya, but if you have your Iron built decently, if you have your Lily May built decently, if you want to take advantage of Faramor being a banner character for what is it?
Time for your eulogy.
What does it say? Yeah, about another 2 weeks. If you want to take advantage of Faramor being the banner character for about another 2 weeks, by all means, go for it. I think it's worth pulling. As we saw, he did a lot of work early. I think he's going to do a lot of work down the road as well. But yeah, that is essentially all I wanted to go over. Just turning the memes into dreams and chronicling exactly what that looks like in a real game application. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.